I'd like to ask you a pretty general question, which is, you call the current president the most divisive person in the last decade, and I would like to know,
Divisive president.
Once all this is said and done, what would a President Rubio do to unite this country?
First of all, I wouldn't pit us against each other. I don't believe that the way you're going to get up is by pulling someone else down. And we do have issues in this country that need to be confronted. We do. Look, let me tell you guys something. I'll give you one example that we're dealing with a lot. Police officers in this country are extraordinary people. Are there people in the police departments that don't do a good job? Yeah, like in any other job in the world. But by and large, in the enormous majority, these are men and women that are willing to put their lives on the line so that my family is safe. And I think it's always important to say that. But I also acknowledge that there are communities in this country that have a really bad relationship with police departments. I acknowledge what I've seen with my own eyes. Okay, I'll give you a story. I've told this story before. There is a gentleman who happens to be a police officer, but he's an African-American male. He was pulled over, I think, 6 or 8 times in a 4-year period or 3-year period. Never given a ticket. What is he supposed to think? It upsets him. He has to explain to his kids, why is this happening? So this is an issue. Now, look, you may not agree. Maybe people say, oh, it's not a big deal, you're exaggerating. It doesn't matter, guys. If it's happening, if people feel this way, if a significant percentage of the American family feels this way, we have to address it. We have to address it. We can't ignore the fact that it is today, in many states in this country, if you're a young African-American male, you are likelier to be in prison than in college. We can't allow that to continue. And why does that happen? There's a lot of reasons for it, but I'll give you one. If you are a child born in a broken home, in a dangerous neighborhood, living in substandard housing, attending a failing school, you have 4 strikes against you before you even turn 5. Unless something dramatic happens, this child's going to struggle. Now, is it the federal government's job to parachute in and save everything? No. In fact, the federal government messes it up even worse, which is why I believe we need to turn these things over to local communities. When I became the Speaker of the House, one of the things I did, I went to New York and I toured this place called the Harlem's Children's Zone. Not a perfect place, but it was led by a guy named Jeffrey Canada, who's an extraordinary leader. The kids, and that's a geographic area, they drew a boundary, and they said every kid in this boundary is going to succeed. We are going to deal with these underlying issues that lead to economic and educational underperformance. The kids that live in the Harlem Children's Zone are succeeding at the same levels of kids that live anywhere. So we know there are solutions out there, but it has to come from the local and state level, not from the federal government. We need to empower people to do that.
Nick.
Nick. How old are you, Nick?
13.
13. What is the 13? Is this all 13-year-olds? All right, Nick.
Could you elaborate on your plan to change the affordability of higher education?
Wow. Holy smoke. This young dude is thinking ahead. He's 4 years away from it. I'm glad you asked that question. Well, here's the problem with higher ed. Not only is it too expensive, it's inaccessible. It's harder than ever for people that need it the most. So let's walk through that. Number one, some of the best jobs today don't require 4 years of college. They require more than high school, but not 4 years of college. And we stopped training people to do this work. At some point, this became a country that said to people, oh, trade school, that's for the kids that can't get into college. That's a lie. Trade school are for people that want to make 50 grand a year at 18 years of age. You want to be a welder, a plumber, a pipe fitter, an airplane mechanic, a car technician? You can make $40,000, $50,000 a year at 18 years of age. When I am president, we are going to open up Pell Grant to high school students who want to go to trade school. You're not going to have to wait till you're 18. You're 16 years old, you're going to be able to go to high school in the morning and trade school in the afternoon. And when you graduate from high school, you're going to get a high school diploma and an industry certification, and you're going to be able to go to work right away as a welder, as a plumber, as a pipe fitter, in the construction trades, fixing airplanes or fixing cars. That's number one. Number two, we're going to have more competition in higher education. And maybe it's tough to say it in a college itself because they're part of that system. And I know this is a very good school. But today in America, the only people that can award degrees are colleges that are accredited by one of 6 accrediting boards. And as a result, innovative programs can't get into the mix. What is an innovative program? Well, really, your degree should be based on what you've learned, not where you learned it. So let's say you've learned it on your own. If you're being homeschooled, you're learning on your own right now, for example, right? In the learning, you see the gains that people make in homeschooling are on par, if not superior, to traditional in-house institutional learning. Today, we're people that have self-directed learning is real. You can take free online coursework from some of the best colleges in the world. You can learn through life experience, work experience, military experience. We don't get credit for that today. When I'm president, we will. We're going to open up an alternative accrediting model that allows people to package learning from a variety of sources. And it could including traditional college courses. But that means now there's more competition. That means schools can't just keep charging you anything they want. This is an issue we have to deal with, absolutely. I worry about it because I have 4 kids myself. The first thing I did when they were born is take out a prepaid college plan for them. Because I got to tell you, when I was 29, 28, we got married. My biggest bill was a $1,500 a month bill for my student loans. More expensive than my mortgage, my rent, my car. I think it was by far the biggest expense we had. And it held us back for many years. So if you're 13, by the time you're 18 and are ready to go to school, I want you to have as many options as possible. And what I don't want to see you have to do is borrow $300,000 to graduate with a degree that never leads to a job, and then you can't pay the loan back, and it ruins your credit, so now you can never buy a home, and then you find yourself in the cycle that a lot of people find themselves in. But I'll make one last point, and I know there are people here, the president of the institution is here, and all of you is here. It's not enough to have a college degree. It has to be the right college degree. It has to be based on something that is relevant to the 21st century. I am all for learning. You can learn as many things you want, but you better have an employable skill in the 21st century, because the days of graduating high school and finding a job and working there for 40 years and retiring with a pension, those days for most Americans are long gone. In the 21st century, if you don't have some level of skill based on a good education, you are going to struggle to find a good paying job in the new economy. We have to make it faster, cheaper, and easier for all Americans to do that, especially by the time you're ready to go to school. And I'm going to do that when I'm president, because for me, it's personal. It's personal. So thank you for having me today, guys. God bless you.
And thank you for joining us for this edition of Capital Connections, your weekly access to politics and policy along the I-89 and I-91 corridors and how it impacts our region. If you have a comment or an idea for a future show, please email me. And please join us again at this same time next week for another edition of Capital Connections.